the flatter yield curve then makes a whole lot of sense. The Fed is concerned about drifting inflation. If the market had the same concerns, the long end would be coming down. The Fed is also saying they're going to carry on raising rates, so the front end should come up. So the flattener really, with that argument in mind, makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, the flattening makes perfect sense. And I think that the chair of the Fed, Powell, coming in, they really are weighing two different priorities here. And it's not the mandate of growth and inflation. It's where they believe that there's a softness in the inflationary data. So the data is leading them to be a little bit more dovish. But the institutional requirements saying that they want to have a high enough rate that when the next recession hits, that there's something to lower. So there really is a dual mandate here, but I think it's the institutional requirement, raise while the getting's good. Yeah. And then the economic data, which are less compelling to that front. I think Europe is also going to be a very big counterbalance on this as well, because the data are less clear there. The European Central Bank kind of split the hair down the middle. They cut their policy, but then they extended out the time period. So I think they kind of got it both ways. So I think there's going to be a global softness in the inflation data, and probably a lower for longer. We're going to get it go up, but lower for longer as a general statement.
So Subadra, how flat can the curve get?
Well, it can continue to flatten from here, but to me what's really troubling is how fast the curve has flattened over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Because if you see the pace of, yes, a couple of weeks ago the market was pricing in December and maybe 1 or 2 hikes for next year, but now we're fully pricing in March, and we're also pricing in the potential for another rate hike by the end of next year. So I would say that the repricing in the front end has been, quite dramatic. And also you have some very important technicals in the back end of the curve. You're seeing a lot of demand coming from pension accounts. I don't want to get too technical, but the stripping activity in the very long end, where you take a bond and sort of strip in the coupons and the principal, that activity has picked up a lot in October, mostly driven by demand coming from pension and pension type accounts. So you're seeing this sort of dynamic where there's a technical in place with more supply coming in the front end, and then there's also technical in the back end of the curve with more demand coming from asset liability managers. And this is coming at a time when the Fed is trying to raise rates, and there's a signal that you should be taking from the flatness of the curve.